Ivar the Boneless, Chains of Cunning, Cruelty, and Destiny. In the mist-covered nights of the 9th century North, among Ragnar Lodbrok's many sons, one child was born unlike the others. His body was frail, his legs weak and brittle, but in his eyes burned a fire, an anger and darkness that challenged fate itself. From infancy, people called him Ivar the Boneless, some out of pity, others out of fear. Ivar grew up in a world where even walking was a battle, yet his mind sharpened like a blade. While other Viking children practiced swinging axes, Ivar studied maps, human weaknesses, and the psychology of fear. Even Ragnar, his legendary father, sometimes felt uneasy under Ivar's piercing stare. The great army's rise and the birth of a strategist. When Ragnar died, thrown into a pit of venomous snakes by King Ella, the news spread across the north like a storm. The tale of his death burned itself into Ivar's heart like a brand. His brothers Ubi, Halfdan, Sigurd, and Bjorn roared for vengeance. But only Ivar could turn rage into strategy. When the great heathen army was formed, Ivar wasn't a warrior at the front. He was the intellect behind the storm. He was carried into battle on a wooden war sled, yet every warrior around him could feel the force of his will. Don't carry me, guide me. Landing in England in the first conflict. When the Viking forces reached the shores of England, smoke, screams, and plunder followed in their wake. But Ivar had a larger purpose in mind, Ragnar's vengeance, and something greater, a kingdom. His brothers often underestimated him, seeing only his small and fragile body. They charged into battle, refusing to listen to Ivar's warnings. Ella cannot be killed in haste. Strike blindly, and you will fall blindly. They ignored him and suffered a crushing defeat. Saxon forces overwhelmed them, and the brothers returned bloodied and humiliated. Ivar's voice was cold. I told you, vengeance is not taken with anger. It is taken with patience. This was the turning point. Ivar separated from them, choosing his own path. A lone Viking in a foreign land. Ivar stayed behind in England, seemingly defenseless, but deadlier than any blade. He blended among the English, learned their customs, and began weaving a web of influence. When he announced he would visit King Ella peacefully, even his closest warriors thought he had gone mad. Carried into Ella's hall, mocked by Saxon guards, Ivar smiled calmly. I seek no fight. I will forget Ragnar's death. Grant me only the land I can cover with a single ox hide. Ella laughed and agreed, tossing him a large hide. But Ivar's mind was already several steps ahead. He stretched the hide tight, cut it into thin strips, and encircled far more land than Ella ever expected. On that land, Ivar founded the settlement that would grow into the city of Jorvik, modern-day York. The Shadow King of York. Ivar didn't merely build a Viking camp. He constructed a political fortress. He traded with locals, bought loyalty, studied noble families, and built networks of spies. Those who once mocked his weak legs soon realized he had become the unseen ruler of the region. York became the heart of his power, and Ivar became its silent king. The Day of Vengeance. The Blood Eagle. Years later, when his power was secure, Ivar sent word to his brothers. The time has come. They returned to find not a crippled brother, but a king. Together they marched on Ella. The battle was swift. Ivar's traps and alliances ensured Ella had no escape. When the king was dragged before him, Ivar's expression held no rage, only cold, perfect purpose. You did not hear my father's screams, but you will hear your own. The Vikings performed the most feared execution of their culture, the blood eagle. Ella's ribs were split from his spine and lungs pulled outward like wings. Ivar did not blink. From that day forward, he was known not only as Ivar the Boneless, but also as Ivar the Breaker of Fate. The final years of a Viking king. For many years, Ivar ruled over York, master of both English and Norse populations. His body grew weaker as age advanced, but his mind remained razor-sharp. His final words were said to be, "Fate took my bones, not my path." Ivar died not in battle, but of old age. An ending few Vikings ever saw, and one that suited him. Even death, in a way, had bowed to his will.